Podcast going. All right, cool. So, welcome everybody. So, what I'm going to do is I always like to make sure. It's like one of these things that I like to do is I just like to make sure, is this actually happening? Yes, it is. Is it there?
You have to, otherwise it
I
would be
know.
devastating.
So, as people have an opportunity to kind of join in, I want to welcome everybody to the next edition of what we call the Writer's Way. And as you can see, we have the lovely Erin Nystrom. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. From all the way on the other coast of the United States from me. So we're West Coast and East Coast right now. And we're going to have some fun and meet the person behind the writer, and all of that stuff. And Erin and I were actually just organically, we were just talking about that, how there's this new culture. It's not just Substack. Substack is an interesting new platform, but it's really this culture that is kind of coming about where people are really consuming a lot of blogs and writing and stuff like that. And we're in this new world where you don't it's interesting to say that we don't get to meet the person behind. And you just said before, I'd love to hear your take on this, that it's not that we need to let everybody know what we look like, but we're in this new world where people don't require knowing somebody. And there's just so much value in getting to know the person behind it. So first of all, welcome to the Writer's Way.
Thanks.
Wonderful to have you here. You'll notice on this platform, you won't be able to see who's joining us. But if you look on, you can kind of simultaneously take your phone.
Oh, geez, I'm not coordinated enough for that.
Well, I'll do that. I'll do that for
us. I will lose
yeah.
all.
So for those of you that are joining us live on Substack, if you did want to say hello, ask a question, you'll be able to do that. I'm watching on Substack. Might be a little bit of a delay. So Erin, welcome to the Writer's Way. Do you want to chime in on your thoughts on what we were just talking about?
Yeah, I think it's interesting with this kind of push now towards more long form type media where we're like consuming people's almost like innermost thoughts where people can, because writing is such a it's my obviously like my preferred art form, but it's such a unique art form in that like you can really distill your thoughts in a way that you can't with like if you're having a conversation with somebody or if you're speaking or doing any other things like that's why I mean like we'll probably get into this, but that's why I write is to like distill what I'm thinking and like organize my thoughts. So when you can consume long form content in that way, where you're like bypassing like the get to know you phase and like especially when compared to things like Instagram or whatever where it's like short form you're getting like little bits and little bits and little bits here and there, like you can read one thing that I've written and like really kind of peer into my soul without knowing anything about me, anything about the context of which I wrote that, any like again like we were talking about before, it's like not really that it matters what you look like, but the way that we're visual people. So and that's why these like shorter form content platforms have really gone crazy is because of that. But because we're so visual, for me it's really hard to like I've got people I subscribe to but I have no idea what they look like, and it's hard for me when they come into my inbox be like, oh yeah, this is that person, and like follow the kind of paper trail that they leave. So I feel like like platforms like what you're doing, it's so nice because like I have it's just it's hard with a medium like Substack to like get to really know people. Oh, I can't hear you anymore. Oh.
There we go.
Okay.
I think we have officially had our first malfunction here on the Writer's Way. What's interesting about what you just said is something I'm experiencing right now is I read your Substack and I can see your profile picture, and there's a lot of, I had to make assumptions on what you were like
Totally.
based on your writing and stuff like that. But now that I'm meeting you in person, I'm like, oh, it's Erin. I get it. I get it a little bit more right now.
Yeah.
And for me, that would probably elevate my interest in reading your stuff. So I think there's a lot of value here. So there's just one quick question I want to ask. It wasn't part of my plan, but it pigtails off of what we just said. So we're in this situation where we're consuming and we don't really care too much about who's writing it because we're looking to be moved by the writing and stuff. And it's kind of cool if there's a cool brand. But what are your thoughts on the emergence of the long form, you know, AI generated writing and stuff like that? Because this is a very controversial topic. Because if I read something and I'm not like judging it or the person that wrote it, if it moves me, I don't really care where it came from. That's just one way that I look at it. What's your take on that?
That's so interesting because, like, I mean, I see what you're saying because all of, AI is pulling from what is already out there. So it's
Right.
not like I mean, sometimes it is bullshitting you, but it's not like it's pure
Well,
bullshit.
but don't people bullshit us too?
Yeah, but I
That's
don't
what I'm saying. It's like
know.
whose bullshit are we more okay with? Like AI or human?
I would rather have a human's bullshit, to be honest.
Okay.
Like, I think with there's how do I distill this? There's something so intangible
Right.
when somebody make even if it's complete bullshit, like, there's
Right.
layers and layers and layers behind that bullshit
Right.
versus AI slop just kind of, like, giving you what it can find from the internet and pulling it together to coherent thought.
So it's
And
like more
it is
is it
what it
is
is, but, like, when it's one person, there's so much context,
yeah.
and also it's just like, I don't know, I think that's really the gist of it is context. Like,
Yeah.
with AI, you don't get the context of a human life, and I'm a little like, I mean, like, I use AI not to write, but, like, my biggest use of it is, like, as a thesaurus, which is probably, like, not not a great, like, for using AI. I could just, like, go to thesaurus.com or whatever, but, um, for like, I don't let it touch what I write because, like, it makes it hard to, I think, figure out what you think and, like, to
Yeah.
get over those hurdles of writer's block and all of these things. Like, there's just something, even if it like, what I write is, like, kind of shitty, like,
Mm,
I would rather have it be humanly shitty than, like,
yeah.
artificially perfect. And I think that I mean, like, that's basically what my entire Substack is about, not about AI, but, like, the human experience. Like, what does it mean to be human and to have a human experience? And I think that I think with this kind of, like, I mean, like, I'm not an economist or anything like that, but, like, this kind of, like, late stage capitalism where we all just, like, need to be perfect and need to, put our best selves out there. There's this kind of rush to be like, well, if AI can do it and everybody thinks I'm perfect and I can put out this perfect front, then that's great. But I think we're losing some of that, like, messiness that I think is really important
Yeah.
for art, for the human experience, for understanding each other. There's a lot going on. So, like, yeah, you can, like, I mean, like, you see that in, like, notes a lot, right? Like, there's a lot of in the notes feature on Substack, there's a lot of just, like, platitudes,
Right.
and they're really nice to read, which, like, keep me scrolling through notes. Like, I mean, like, I don't know if your algorithm serves you up this, but there's a lot of people like, I quit all social media, and you're, like, here on Substack posting about it.
Right.
Like, I can get caught in a scroll on notes pretty easily. But I wonder, like, with the platitudes, like, how much of that is just, like, AI generated, just like quotes people read somewhere. Like, you can kind of feel it where there's a lack of depth.
Well, as a reader, I don't know if you know who Jim Quick is, but he's my
Mhm.
best friend, and
Oh,
he's
wow.
yeah. So Jim, when you're friends with the one of the top speed reading coaches, you learn how to read a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm a big advocate of reading. So I like to just consume, and I just find myself not really thinking too much about who wrote things. I know that there's some people out there that spend like all their time trying to say that's AI, gotcha, and all
Yeah.
that stuff. So I don't know. We're going to be confronted with a situation where you won't really know the difference. But I think I agree with you that if it comes to reading shit, I want to read human shit. I
Yeah.
get it.
And
Okay.
it's not like I'm not like if somebody uses it, like, I don't really care that much. Like, I like you said, I'm not that person that's like the AI police. Like, if somebody used AI,
Right.
like, go off if that's what you want to do. Um, but when it comes to I totally lost my train of thought. AI, I don't know. It'll happen. I have
It's
ADHD.
just, I think it's like about preservation. So let's get into your stuff, because that's the whole purpose of
Sure.
this show. I just wanted to get your take on that. So I read up a little bit on what your human being is about, and obviously I just love this topic. It's
Yeah.
very much what I talk about. But it says human being is about exploring and celebrating what it means to be a human. So um, I'd love you to elaborate a little bit on what that means, because there's like a difference between human being and human doing. Um, I love this condition of being a human, but you're taking your own spin on it, and I think that you write a lot about maybe about health and your own, own life experiences and stuff. So explain to us what human being is all about.
Yeah, so the way I come at it is there's kind of two sides to it, kind of like I'd say in my whatever tagline. There's the exploring part, which I kind of go into like a little bit more of the science of like how we can, and I'm gonna like toe a line here, like how we can be better. Like, we live in this world where like objectively things are not going well for Western society. Like we are sicker, we're more unhappy, anxiety, depression, like all sorts of comorbidities, all cause mortality, like all of these things are just skyrocketing. So for all of our trying and all of our interventions, we just seem to keep getting worse. So I'm very interested in, okay, we have the science now to be able to explore the things that we can use and the tools that we can use to live better, essentially. And the other side of that is the celebrating part where like kind of like I talked about earlier is like the messiness of just like being a person. Because I was a person who was spent my late teens and basically all of my 20s with severe anxiety and depression. I dropped out of college for a little bit, like couldn't, like I was a high achiever, high performer, straight A's, like the whole thing, and I just so got burnt out and like dropped out for a semester and slept for like 4 months. Like it was like I struggled still. Like I go through periods where I get a little bit better and then I kind of fall back into it. So that really got me super interested in, okay, like what is this human experience about, and like finding meaning. And because like I said, there's kind of two sides to this where like yes, there's like how can we be the best that we can possibly be, but also that there can be a trap in there of like always trying to achieve this like perfect ideal that just doesn't really exist, and that can send you down this hole. So like how can we hold both? And this is like this duality that I'm always kind of caught in the middle of like, excuse me, trying to improve myself and like not just go with the flow, because the flow is the flow is what's making everybody so miserable and unwell. So how can I kind of take some control and autonomy over my life and have the kind of life that I want, but also at the same time, like a little bit more, I guess you could call it like philosophy, like a little bit of stoicism in there of like, how can I just also enjoy being alive? Oh, your mic's off again. Oh.
I actually I didn't want anyone to hear me right there. I just was just pontificating. Um, but what I love about that is that it's not easy being a human, and it should be easier. But the reason why it's not easy is because of how we've kind of all been conditioned and programmed. I like to look at it like we've all since birth been listening to the popular radio station without ever checking out the other stations,
Yes.
and then all of a sudden the shit hits the fan, and you go, I'm having anxiety. And I knew there was something you and I had in common, because I went through that phase as well, which was a blessing, because it kind of also pushed me to say, like, something's not right here, so you start exploring, you're becoming like a little bit more curious and
Right.
conscious about stuff. um so I love that, and I think that the reason why readers are so intrigued by your work is because you're talking about something that everybody is dealing with. You know, if you somebody asked me, they said, "What do you think our biggest problem is in humanity?" Right? Because there's so many. Anywhere you look, we're just struggling in so many different ways. And I always say that the upstream cause of most of our problems is emotional mismanagement. We don't know how to handle shit when it hits the fan. So I love that you're writing, but also some of the stuff like the stoicism that you insert in there not only addresses those where people say, "Hey, me too, I'm like that," but you're also giving some nice little nuggets of stuff like, "Well, maybe this, maybe that."
Yeah.
So that's probably why people are so attracted to it. What is the how would you explain your readers? Like who follows you?
It's so funny because I, over the last month, have seen this like huge boom in growth. And a lot of it was just from like this one thing that I wrote that went kind of viral. So I've been kind of struggling with who my readers are because like
You
as I
don't
was
know.
slowly, yeah, like as I was slowly growing, it was like is pretty much of an accumulation of all the things I had written, like a nice, pretty like steady growth. And then it just kind of exploded. And it's tough because I write about so many, like it's a broad topic, like the human experience is like you could go to a lot of places. And the thing that really kind of like catapulted my Substack was something I wrote about exercise, which I do have a background as a trainer. Like I've worked in the health and fitness world for the better part of the last decade. So like I know that topic really well. But it's interesting because it's like, oh, well, if you're coming here for exercise, like you're gonna be a little disappointed.
Mm,
So like I definitely think broadly speaking that my average reader is probably somebody who cares about improving themselves, but is really put off by this kind of modern wellness, like wellness industrial complex scape where you feel like you always have to like do a new habit or like buy a new thing. Like that when I write, I kind of explore like how can we do less because it really seems like kind of like I said earlier, like the more we do, the worse it gets.
mm,
So, adding your cold plunges and your red light and your supplements and all this stuff like they're good, they have value, but those aren't the things that make you well. So I think it's definitely people who are attracted to, the wellness space, but like are getting fatigued by all the rhetoric.
yeah. Or people in general, they give a shit about their health. Um, I mean, one of the things that I like to bring out because there's a huge culture of people out there that I think there's people out there that have nobody reading their stuff that write stuff that's much better than mine. So, you mentioned that, you were kind of like steady growing and then all of a sudden you wrote something. Is there an algorithm? Is there a virality? Like, how does that happen on Substack? Because I can't, there's no SEO with Substack or anything like that. So did it just catch fire like a note catches fire?
So I've definitely had like a few different bumps. So I've had notes go off that have definitely got me a bit of traction. I've had
Right.
some longer form article. I don't know would you call them articles, posts, piece. I'd never know what to call them. The actual Substack part of it. I've had some of those kind of get a little bit more popular, different levels. But it's just honest, like I I hate to be this person, but it's just kinda consistency. I mean, like, I love writing. I consider myself a writer, so being on Substack is quite easy for me versus other platforms. When I started, I was just like, "Okay, I'm gonna do 1 post a week and a note every day." And it doesn't matter if I'm just, like, resharing something from somebody or it's something more profound, like, just show up every day, long form every week, and I just have been doing that for like a little over a year, almost a year and a half now. And it's definitely worked out. But like I have no like keys for virality, like what makes a post go. I have no idea. I'm my own worst critic. Like when I put out stuff, I'm like, nobody's gonna read this. This is just incoherent rambling. This is not gonna make sense. And then it's like it takes off. I'm like, okay, like, fine.
it's kind of like when you go golfing. If you try too hard, you hit it into the woods. But when you sort of
Yes.
have fun, so there's a big takeaway for writers out there. Maybe you we should all like let our foot off the gas of trying to please and just
Yes.
let our natural creative process
Yeah,
reflect in the writing.
because
Make
I
small
was like,
mistakes.
yeah, I mean, like, I cried when I got like a hundred subscribers. I like was floored that that many people wanted to read what I wrote. And I've tried to keep that same spirit this entire time of like not um not I mean, like, I care, but writing what I want to write and whatever's on my mind and whatever's inspiring me at the time, and not so much trying to, like you said, like trying to please
Mm,
people or an algorithm or whatever. Like, kind of like you said with the golfing, I've been learning how to mountain bike recently. And one of the things that I'm quickly learning is that, like, the more you try to control it, the more likely you are to crash or catch a
right.
pedal or
Yeah.
whatever. Like, you have to kind of literally go with the flow. So
Mm,
I find that I think that it probably applies really well to all manner of social media, to be honest. Like, the more you try to please an algorithm, the less authentic you're being, and I think people
right.
realize that.
Yeah, and that's not what Substack is. It doesn't seem to be. Yes, there seems to be a huge migration from other platforms like Medium and stuff because I think probably
Yeah,
because Medium stopped paying and stuff.
yeah,
But Substack's a great opportunity. I find that in the spirit of what we're talking about, I find that first of all, I think it's funny how people on Substack think when they ask you to read their thing, they think that that's the only one that asked that. Like, but sometimes there's like 100 people that say, "Hey, if you get a chance, can you read my thing?" And if you don't, they're like, "Whoa, you know, I subscribe to yours." So there's this weird dating game going on there where it's like you scratch my back, I scratch yours. But that would be an example of trying too hard to play.
yeah,
I mean, we all dance with it, but I think the authenticity and I noticed that the best quality writers and the ones that have the biggest followings and paid subscribers and all that stuff are not asking anybody to read it. You know what I'm saying?
right. Yeah, yeah, I've definitely ran into that. And I think I mean, not to be like too woo, but like there's an energy of like desperation,
Right.
and that energy of desperation is very repelling. Like, it's a
Mhm.
repellent. But if you are just like, I'm here to create art and say what I need to say, and like if you're very confident in that, like that also has an energy that is more magnetic. So I don't play the, like, read mine, share, like, recommend me game. Like, if people have asked, and I'm just, like, respectfully, like, if I authentically become a fan of your work, I will recommend your page. But, like, I'm not just gonna do that, because then that tarnishes, I mean, not tarnish, like, I'm sure whoever's asking, their stuff is fine, but, like, it's not a direct reflection of, like, what I'm really stoked about. And I think that energy, like, stoke is a word I use a lot.
I was going to say I see that word come up in a lot of your stuff.
Yeah, like the energy of like just like pure stoke, pure unadulterated, like authentic stoke is so palpable. Because we're in this world right now where I think we're really worried about like looking cool. And it's like for whatever reason, again, like cool not to care. But like if you can let yourself be just like so interested and like really into something, that is palpable, that is magnetic, that is craveable. So I think
Mm.
if you can kind of tap into that, like, things just kind of flow from there.
Yeah, I like to try to become interested more than interesting.
Yeah.
And by the way, one of my very good friends who's not on Substack, his name is Greg Rex, wrote a book that you should get called Stoked. And it's like of course, he's a surfer and all of that stuff.
Oh, cool.
Um,
I'm gonna write that down.
here's a question. Um, when Erin sits down to write, because there's a lot of people out there that are new to this and they've got such great stuff, but when you sit down to write, how does that take place? Do you have a system where you just allow like the arena of play and how do you get motivated and How do you create your topics and all that? What's the process for you?
Yeah, it depends. It usually starts basically the same. So I have a kind of psychotic Notion board. Do you use Notion at all? Or if people don't know what it is, it's kind of like an organization.
Right.
And so I just have like this running list of like topics. Like if
Right.
something like just a word, a phrase pops into my head, I'm like listening to a podcast or watching a documentary or whatever, like and some sort of like topic just comes to
You
me,
got it down.
jot it down. And
Yeah.
like whatever other like notes that can add like context to that for me later. Otherwise I'll like look at it and be like, what was I thinking? And which happens a lot. Um and from there, I set aside time every week, like 3 or 4 days a week for a couple hours a chunk and, um, sit down and write, and sometimes it's just, like, one nice flowing thing. Sometimes I'll come and write, like, a paragraph here and a paragraph here, and then, like,
Yeah.
my kind of quest is to kind of, like, thread it together, like, it's definitely not a linear process. Um it's a little bit it can be a little chaotic, especially, like, on the longer form ones, but sometimes there's just short things that I'm thinking, things that I'm inspired by, like, the things that take a lot of research, those look like serial killer notes, like, you can imagine, like, the red thread, like, connecting things, and, like, those take a long time because I have to kind of, like, weave together this kind of coherent thought out of all these things that I found, which is kind of fun for me. It's, like, kind of like putting a puzzle together, but that's, my process more or less.
So I noticed that you made the bestseller list, which
Uh,
in it's not what people think, right?
no.
She didn't, it's not like a bestseller book, but it means her Substack is bestseller, but it means that she's impacted a certain amount of people and she has a certain amount of paid subscribers. I know that a big question that a lot of people have on their minds is like, when did you start your paid subscription? And what is the primary reason people pay to, is it just to support you or is it for a premium service? Like, why do you think somebody would go and pay?
Yeah, so I've played with a a paid version,
Right.
we call that paywall, for, like, pretty much since I started, just to, like, see because if you don't have it, then nobody's gonna pay for it.
Right.
So, for the first year, I, like, did some paid stuff. It was mostly just, like, a small handful of people just paying to support me.
Right.
And then as my Substack really started growing really quickly, I started getting a lot more paid subscribers. So then I really had to sit down and think about like, okay, what do I want to offer paid subscribers to make it worth their while?
Sure.
So
Or as a way of saying thank you.
exactly, like you're here, you're paying, this is just for you.
Right.
Uh, and also to attract more paid
Sure.
subscribers because like the idea of like being able to quit my job and
Yeah. Just like
being
do
able
this.
to like
And
just
I
like
mean,
write is like a
there's
dream.
there's some people that I have coming on the show that like make, multiple six figures like writing. And I'm like,
Yeah, the
yes,
dream.
I'd like to talk to you.
Yes, exactly. So I'm like, okay, I can't like I said, I can't do that if it doesn't already exist. And
Right.
even if it's just for like a small handful of people, like really treat those people. I think it's Tim Ferriss is like your 1,000 true fans type
Right.
thing. It's like
Right.
really play those people up. So right now I'm playing with different things. So am I dabble as a breathwork coach. So I do like a weekly like breathwork audio based on, different themes. I'm kind of playing with that a little bit right now. But I think the one thing that'll probably stick around for a while is I'm doing like a monthly kind of like guide. So still like in the same vein of the things that I've been writing, but a little bit more practical.
Mm,
So like you're not just getting like the things that I write and think and pontificate about. It's a lot of like here's this idea and then here's like practical steps that you could
right.
take. So that's what I'm playing with for paid subscribers right now.
I heard a very, very smart man one time tell me, he says, here's how you play the game of what's free and what is paid. And I think all people would love to hear this. He says, whenever you're giving things away for free, of course, the value and of the content is important. He says, but when you're giving things away for free, you're only talking about the what and the why.
Right.
Because the paid, to your point, is where you deliver the how.
Right. And I've never heard that. But I love that. And
Isn't
that's
that
what
awesome? Yeah.
I naturally kind of do is exactly that. Like I honestly try to give my best work away for free. Like if I
Yeah.
have something that like I put a lot of work into, like I want a lot of people to see it, but it's usually never, like you said, like the how, it's the what and the why. So I love that. That's great.
Yeah. So so much value. And I just want everybody to know that what you're seeing right now, selfishly, I like to know these things about people because I'm building my Substack as well. And if you're listening to this with us now live, I'm going to see a bunch of people here. And I always get a kick out of the people that they have their name, but then I see someone here whose Substack name is Midlife Money Accelerator. Like, so I'm always like, hello, Midlife Money Accelerator. Nice to meet you. My name is JC. So in any case,
Your parents call you that? Do they call you?
that's right. Yeah, I was born that way. Anything can go nowadays. So what I would love to, just kind of at the end here, ask you, because I want to encourage everybody. This is called a collaboration, by the way. Whenever you're writing, if you read something of Erin's or anybody else's and it moves you to write something, quote them in your writing and tag them. And it's just a mutual benefit thing, but it's also a great idea. So case in point, here, I'm hoping that all of my subscribers that, she's got a much bigger following than I do at this moment, but I'm hoping that my podcast following, my subscribers all go over and well, at least the ones that vibe and like what she's writing about. So, consider doing that. You don't have to go build things on an island,
Totally.
So if you could leave your readers, this will be your closing moment here.
All right.
No pressure. So if you could leave your readers with one lasting message about what it means to live fully human, what would that message be?
I think that it would be to not appreciate. I hate that. I hate the word appreciate, but like be in it. If you can fully feel, you have to fully feel everything. The good, the bad, the really bad, the really good, the joyful moments, the moments where you feel like you couldn't possibly go on. Let yourself be in it. I
Mm,
think that's something that I've found as part of my journey, especially with like anxiety and depression, is that I got to a point where I was on Prozac and like wasn't anxious anymore, but I didn't feel anything anymore.
you weren't in it. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think that taught me a really big lesson of like, I would rather feel bad than feel nothing. Uh,
Mm,
so over the last, several years, I've really cultivated like a mindfulness practice and like practice being present. And it doesn't feel like you're doing anything for a really long time.
mm,
Um, but at some point, now I'm in this weird place where I'm like, I'm not anxious. I feel really good. I feel really in my life. And I'm almost a little bit bored. Like I need some like excitement. So I would say like figure out ways where you can be in your life more, whether that is,
mm,
like I said, meditating, whether it's a breathwork practice, whether that is um, figuring out how to be on your phone less. That's a big one. Um, Being creative, whatever it is, being out in nature, like figure out what the thing is that you need right now, the lowest hanging fruit, and go do that because I talk about in the things that I write, like your kind of aperture on life, like things that
mm.
narrow it and make your experience really kind of small and confined, and things that kind of widen things out into a panorama. So like what can you do to kind of like widen that aperture? I would say is probably my number one kind of like through line of a lot of things that I write and talk about is like how can we like fully embody this experience? And it's going to look different for everyone from where you're at, but yeah, just be thinking about things that you could be doing.
I think you just came up with a name for an Erin Nystrom book. You want to know what it is?
Oh my god, what is it?
In it.
Oh,
It's yours. Take it and run.
Oh my god.
I love it. What you're talking about is kind of, a little bit of my, or a lot of bit of my wheelhouse, in the sense that I think one of the challenges with living in it is we have been programmed to live in what we call the not now, the future, the past. And what's interesting about anxiety, when you're someone that struggles with anxiety, and I know you know this, like, you learn everything there is to know about it.
And that's what it is. It's just you're not living in the moment.
Well, so what's fascinating is if you're ever worried, concerned, frustrated, or confused, or having anxiety, if you are able to pinpoint what it is, you'll notice that it is something that is not in your control. You're trying to drink water with a fork in that moment. So that is a fun thing, because you just mentioned that right now at this time you're almost looking for some excitement. It's like there was a time where you avoided things, and now you're like, I think I need to press in a little bit more.
Yeah.
And if you look at the science behind it, and this message is for the person out there that's like maybe convinced themselves they're afraid or not good enough or something like that. The science behind anxiety is fascinating, because if you look at two brain maps, one of somebody having a full-on anxiety attack, and then somebody else that's just like Erin is right now, elated and excited and grateful, the brain map is identical. So perhaps what you've been able to do, and maybe you healing through your writing as well. I would assume it's a healing process as well,
Totally.
especially if it's authentic. I don't think you can heal through writing if you're using ChatGPT.
Not really.
I think that you're probably experiencing the same symptoms that you always were, but right now you're just reinterpreting them as you're stoked,
Totally.
right?
Love that. Yeah,
So,
definitely.
so maybe you're not anxious, everybody. Maybe you're just stoked.
I do think that, like, I mean, like, it's been a long journey of, like, self-discovery, but I think that, like, as an adult, that's kind of your job, is to, like, get back to your true essence and, like, kinda get back to who you were as a kid before society and, parents, whatever, friends told you who you were supposed to be, and, like, kinda get back to what you authentically feel um, in your soul is good and true, and it's a never ending thing. Like, that's another thing that I write about a lot, is like there's no end points. There's no like point where you're just like standing on top of the mountain and you're there forever. Like, you'll
Yeah,
get there, it'll feel good for a second, and then the next thing you got to go back down and the next thing happens. Like, and learning to like ride that wave and kind of zoom out a little bit, I think is really um I think fun,
yeah,
and kind of makes the journey of life feel like a journey, like, you just ride it out.
I love it. And also for all of you that think that um, there's like something else after life. I sure hope that you're right, but there's a very good chance that this is it, and maybe that would be another reason to lean into your stokedness,
Exactly.
right?
Totally.
So what a pleasure to have you.
For having
I'm
me.
so excited to know that like you are just a normal human being that experienced some sort of weird bump and into like, and you're staying humble and stuff like that. So I'm so excited to watch you just grow, and I want you to, text me the moment that you're like, I quit my job.
Oh, I
I'm
will.
just writing right now. And,
I've
and, and
calculated out the number of subscribers I would need. I'm gunning for it.
and everybody's going to help each other with the same thing. So go check out Human Being with Erin's stuff. And, once again, we should all support each other, because there's this way behind all of us. We're all, you can see, just human beings, out there doing human things. And I'm excited for you. So thanks so much for coming on the show, and look forward to cultivating a relationship with you as we go.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Bye bye. Have a good day.